heart health and pregnant mothers? How do all those things tie together?
Great. I love it. The high bar in the beginning. So I should just say by way of background, as you know, I'm a cardiologist and I'm an evolutionary biologist. But as a cardiologist, I have spent, a couple of decades taking care of human beings with all kinds of cardiac issues, one of which is high blood pressure, hypertension. And as you know, hypertension can cause, if it's not detected and treated, can cause a whole range of problems, including heart failure. And what often happens is that high blood pressure makes the heart work very hard. The left ventricle has to work very hard. And when a muscle has to work very hard, it grows, it thickens. And that is exactly what happens to the heart. The left ventricle begins to thicken when there's long-standing high blood pressure. And when it thickens, it begins to also stiffen. So what that means is that your heart might be contracting pretty good, but when it relaxes, it doesn't fully relax. And so the pressure inside that heart rises and rises and rises. And eventually that pressure rises into the upper chamber of the heart, it backs into the lungs, and patients experience shortness of breath. They find it hard to move very far, very fast, and they have heart failure symptoms. So in this way, high blood pressure causes the heart muscle to weaken and lead to heart failure. So it turns out this particular type of heart failure is growing. The numbers are increasing more than any other type of heart failure, and it's the leading cause of heart failure in women. And I'm very interested in women's cardiovascular health. Okay, so that's hearts. So check. You wanted me to put the
Hey,
okay. So
yeah, I gave you a lot. Sorry.
that's the cardiology part of me. Now, but I'm also an evolutionary biologist, and one of the really exciting parts of this emerging field called evolutionary medicine is that it allows us to focus on the natural world and biodiversity. So we're talking about all of the many, the countless millions of other species on Earth, and to begin to see whether within that diversity of species, there is physiology. There's, when you see a zebra looks different than a flamingo. We know that from the outside. But the physiology is different, right? So there's not just diversity of shape and size and color. There's physiologic diversity. And so there's an opportunity to think, well, maybe contained within that biodiversity of life on Earth, there could be physiologies that have evolved that actually can solve some of the medical problems that we have not been able to. And one of those medical challenges is dealing with the negative effects of high blood pressure. So I just mentioned that high blood pressure can cause the heart to fail, but high blood pressure can also cause kidney failure and eye problems. And high blood pressure is one of the leading causes of fetal and maternal mortality in human pregnancy. Okay.
Yes.
So you can see where I'm going there. So now let's just say, can we turn to the natural world? Is there a physiology that has learned to adapt to high blood pressure in such a way that an organism is protected? And the answer is yes. That species is the giraffe. Okay, so why the giraffe? Well, what is the most iconic feature of the giraffe? The long neck. The long neck.
Long neck.
The
Yep.
giraffe has a normal, healthy adult giraffe has a heart that is separated. So if the heart's down sort of at the body between the two front legs, the brain is up to 3 meters vertically above. So what that means is, in order for that ventricle, the left ventricle, to pump blood to reach the brain, it's pushing up against gravity, right? A column of fluid against gravity. And so related to that is the reality that the blood pressure of a normal, healthy adult giraffe can be as high as 300 millimeters of mercury over 200. And remember that for us, right, 120 over
That's
80.
crazy. 200 is like end organ damage for humans. So 300 is nuts.
Right, 300. And if you compared, which I have, giraffes to horses to other, animals in that category, it's an outlier, very, very high. Okay. So if giraffes have this very high blood pressure, and by the way, giraffes have the highest blood pressure of any animal on Earth, then the next question to ask is, well, if high blood pressure causes so many health issues in humans, how is it that giraffes are running around their entire lifetimes with these high blood pressures, why don't they all have heart failure? Why don't they all have kidney failure? Why aren't all of the pregnancies unsuccessful? And the answer is
Exactly.
evolution. They
Yes.
have evolved adaptations that protect themselves, essentially, that over the course of, as it turns out, about 11.5 million years, and we know that, and I'll tell you why, but they've evolved these adaptations that allow them to have the long neck and all the advantages, the survival advantages of having the long neck, but to not have the negative impact of high blood pressure. And so that is a really exciting piece of my research, is to understand how that evolved, what the exact mechanism is that protects the hearts, for example, and then to take those insights and direct our attention to pregnancy. How is it that the pregnant giraffe, who has this very high blood pressure compared to humans, how does she stay healthy? And that is interesting for giraffes, but it also opens up an entirely new and fascinating field of research, which is looking at pregnancy in the wild. Because, a giraffe is one
Yes.
example. A giraffe, by the end of her 9-month pregnancy, almost 10 months, 9 months pregnancy, she's put on hundreds of pounds, right, of fetus, of fluid, and of fat. And yet she's a prey, giraffe. Every single day they're being tracked and hunted by cheetahs and lions. And she cannot be the slowest giraffe in the herd. So, and that goes for a pregnant zebra and a pregnant, so there are some adaptations in the wild pregnancy that allow these animals to not lose speed. And that, I mean, when I was a cardiology fellow or a first year attending when I was pregnant with my first, and I remember running to a code blue and just, I was definitely the slowest giraffe in the herd. I would have been